What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Tim Sports Talk. And today we have Rico from the Street Scores. How you doing today, Rico?
I'm good. How are you, my boy?
Not too bad. Ready to talk some draft. I got a bunch of people coming on, and I'm glad to have you on early. And you got a lot of strong opinions, so that's a lot of fun because you definitely look into these players before the draft even starts, so you have an idea of who you want and where people should go. And then once things start to not go that direction, then you could have strong feelings about it. But there's a couple other things first that before we actually get into the individual picks. And I want to give a disclaimer and I'm going to get on my soapbox about people getting on the soapbox, as I told Rico before we get started, of everybody's like, oh, don't give an opinion on this draft because nobody knows until 3-4 years down the road. No, this is the time to give the opinion of the draft. So in 3 or 4 years, I can either be called a moron for what I thought, or I can say I was right when 3-4 years down the road, when now we know what happens. I'm not trying to be this hindsight 2020 guy of, oh, well, no, everybody's a moron for knowing then. Oh, well, what would you have done then, Tim? Well, I said I liked it, so I'm an idiot too. But anyway, so we're not giving any disclaimers on this channel today. Right, Rico?
Yes, sir. I'm going to let you handle all of it.
No, that's fine. We're definitely going to discuss everything in the draft. But
for sure,
two notable things before we actually get into the individual picks and what's going on is Martin Mayhew basically told us beforehand that he was trading back in the first round without telling us that he was trading back in the first round. He said that we will not have the same picks that we have currently going into this at the end of the day. At the end of the draft, we'll have a different set of picks. And it happened. And sure enough, pick 11 comes through. We weren't sure if we were going to even be able to trade back because it takes 2 to tango, but we get a trade back. Saints move up to 11. We go back to 16. At the time, how'd you feel about this move?
I was highly upset. I'm going to take the blue chip players. I was really high on Jameson Williams. I know a lot of people started to fall off of Kyle Hamilton. I was still holding on strong. I love Kyle Hamilton, but I can see why a lot of people don't, especially positional value at safety to take him top 11. But at the time, but I already knew, I couldn't be too upset because I knew it was going to happen. Like you said, we knew coming into the draft, you were going to have to do some trades, and trading back in the first round made the most sense. And also it was kind of nice that we didn't trade back into the 20s. We traded back 5 spots. I was thinking we may trade back all the way to the 20s or something like that. So I thought we may still be in range of getting everybody, but I was just like, Jameson Williams is there. Take them. Don't even think about it. Don't. I know you want to get these other picks. We'll figure it out. Trade some players, whatever you got to do. But I think ultimately they netted. I mean, we're going to get to it, but just the 5th round picks that they end up making with those picks, I think ultimately, I feel like we won the trade against the Saints. I'm just sad we traded back and missed out on the players that we missed out on.
Fair enough. I completely disagree here. And I think there's going to be some areas that we agree on, but I loved the trade back. Going in to this draft, my ideal was a trade back. And as soon as that happened, I was ecstatic because a lot of people wanted Olave, and I personally have a big I'm anti-wide receiver in the first round, unless you're Calvin Johnson, 6'4", 6'5", catch radius out of the gym, runs a sub 4.4, huge vertical, big, huge guy. If you have it all like Julio or Calvin, okay, I'm fine with taking you in the first round. Outside of that, I feel like the value is not there, considering the list could go on for days, but Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. There's so many that were drafted outside of the first round. So I did not want to go Olave, and I really didn't want to go Williams either, even though he does have legit speed. But I loved the move back to 16 personally, but we'll get into who we would take here in a minute. But okay. Another thing is, so we had the top 30 visits, right? Yeah. And the first 2 picks ended up not being guys we did anything with. And everybody was shocked, including the players. Is that how you would have used those top 30 visits?
I mean, because I'm pretty sure, as you know, maybe some people watching may not know, but Ron Rivera basically explained it as we didn't do top 30 visits with anybody that we didn't have questions with. We talked to Jahan Dotson once. We knew everything we needed to know. We loved him as a player, basically Terry McLaurin clone as far as how he presents himself at press conferences. We're not going to say on the field yet. Definitely hasn't earned those honors yet at all.
Right.
And so they basically used their top 30 visits to get more insight on guys that they may have had questions on. Even used the example of Luke Kuechly. They talked to him once. Good, we're taking him. Cam Newton, they said they talked to him several times to make sure this, that, physically, mentally, where you at, all these type of things, presenting them with different questions at different situations. So it makes sense, but it does catch you off guard when, like, I mean, both of these first two picks were just like, when we connected with them, no reporters said anything about it. Like everybody's mock draft was immediately destroyed within the first two rounds.
It really was. It seemed like to most people a pick from left field, even though when you start looking into the other mock drafts, like apparently he was going in the 20s, but yet for some reason this is a receiver that we just had nobody looked into going in, probably because of his size. We wanted a bigger body individual, bigger body
more
receiver.
Drake London.
They did want Drake London. How'd you feel about Drake London? Would you have been happy with pick 11?
I mean, because just like you, unless it's a star, and I feel stronger about Jameson Williams than probably you do. I agree that receiver first round, let alone top 15, isn't worth it. So I think Drake London's separation issues are overblown to an extent. I think he's quick enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, Drake London at 11 would not have been excited. It was just kind of what it is. I would have preferred to trade it back over taking Drake London at 11 for sure.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, we're on the same page for sure. I did not like Drake London whatsoever. I was one of those that did not like the separation concerns of, I think it was Louis T or somebody that gave the stats of like the last 5 guys that had the most contested catches. And it was like Josh Doxson, JJ Arcega, Whiteside, N'Keal Harry. Just the list of receivers was appalling of guys that you couldn't absolutely not at 11. So, but I've already said my thoughts on wide receiver in the first round anyway. But all right. So we skip out on Williams. We skip out on Hamilton. Hamilton may have had a chance to fall, but unfortunately the Ravens took him right beforehand. I know a lot of people liked him a lot, and I would have been okay with Kyle Hamilton, at least if it would have been a position of need. But then here comes Jahan Dotson, 5'10.5". He's not even 5'11". I know he's listed at 5'11", but he's not even 5'11", 180 pounds. He doesn't run a sub 4.4 with that size, which is interesting. We decide to go Jahan Dotson. And where was your head when that name came across the screen?
My heart sank just initially. Looking back, watching more film, and and I'm pretty sure some of it is just convincing myself that the pick is better than it probably is. But I mean, there is an argument that we had a type with the Drake London love, with the Jahan Dotson love. Clearly, we wanted a receiver that showed that they could carry a team. The quarterback's awful, no weapons around them. They're clearly the game plan for the opposing defense every game. Stop him, and for them to still be able to produce. I think that's what we liked going into this draft, probably covered it more than anything else. But yeah, even right now, I don't love the pick, but it's solid. They're just going high floor especially with that first pick. They went high floor. They want a guy that they know can contribute now. And just overall, I think they're just trying to build a team baby steps. We won 7 games last year. They want to build on that, maybe win 8, 10, 9. And maybe compete for a Super Bowl 3 to 5 years from now, which is the complete opposite of how I would draft. But the logic is clear. They want to just fill needs. They want to get guys they know they can contribute right now. And there's a point to that because Terry McLaurin going for 1,000 yards, the guy next to him way down the list in yards, J.D. McKissic. Like no wide receiver 2 at all. So I understand that being a pretty prevalent need that they wanted to address.
Absolutely. And do you believe there's a chance that Ron Rivera and company actually believe they got the better player? Like, not only did we trade back and miss out on Olave, but you think there's actually a chance that, no, wait, we traded back and then scammed the Saints and got the better wide receiver at pick 16 and we got value?
Yeah, because honestly, even for me, I think objectively the gap between Chris Olave and Jahan Dotson definitely is not big enough to say, hey, take Sam Howell and Cole Turner back and Brian Robinson back. Just take them off our team. I definitely feel like we won the trade overall. And of course, you can also make the argument Chris Olave has CJ Stroud and Garrett Wilson. Jahan Dotson, I can't even remember anybody else's. I don't even remember the quarterback's name.
John Clifford. Yeah.
Thank you. And Ron Rivera tried his hardest not to throw him under the bus, the quarterback. He was trying so hard to try to compliment Jahan without degrading the quarterback, Clifford. Yeah. And it's just like he really had to put an entire team on his back offensively. Mm-hmm. And so, and again, they coveted that. And so I think there is a situation where Jahan could end up being better than Chris Olave. And even if he's not better talent-wise, the situation, because Carson Wentz say he has a great season. Terry McLaurin's going to demand double teams. Jahan Dotson's always going to be open. So he probably puts up better stats than Chris Olave. So it's one of those things where you would just have to go to an alternate universe to really know the true answer. But right. I'm comfortable with Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, Sam Howell, and Cole Turner over Chris Olave all day for me. I was never that high on Chris Olave anyway.
I gotcha. Fair enough. I'm right there with you. Yeah, if those are my two options, then I'm going with what we did over that 1,000%. Sure. So yeah, me and you, total agreement here. Were you also surprised when Martin Mayhew said there was another trade offer on the table at 16, and we said no, we need this dude. We didn't do that with Chris Olave. Or Jameson Williams or Kyle Hamilton, right? We said, no, we can move back. We can skip on those dudes. Here at 16, we can't miss Jahan Dotson. Were you surprised there's actually a table that we turned, or trade on the table we turned down here at 16?
I definitely was sad when I heard that. I wish I never heard it. I wish we would have just went ahead and traded back, take a chance on it, whatever, get the next best guy if you got to a receiver. Yeah. I'm excited about Jahan Dotson now that he's here, but I definitely would have taken another trade back opportunity for sure. The fact that, but at the same time, if they, just like with quarterbacks, I was a Malik Willis guy, but if they really even if we took a quarterback at 11 and it was somebody not Malik Willis, the fact that they like them that much, I'm behind it because they've clearly done their research. They've already game planned how they're going to build this scheme around them. I'm just going to, give them the benefit of the doubt. So I kind of feel the same way with Jahan Dotson. The fact that they weren't willing to trade back again and they wanted to make sure they got him makes me believe in him more because of how they feel about him than how I necessarily feel about him what I've seen on film.
Gotcha. All right. So at 16, you're on 16, you're on the clock because me and you both, and I understand, and this is another caveat that everybody has to say, of course, they're now burgundy and gold players. We are going to root these dudes on, and we would love nothing more to be than dead wrong, and these guys are the best at their specific positions. I know that has to be said for a lot of fans, so I'll say it right there, but we're talking about what we actually think right here, right now, 4 days after the draft, 5 days after the draft, whatever it is, about these picks. Okay, so at 16, Williams gone, Hamilton's gone, a bunch of other Jordan Davis. I don't know if you had any interest in him. You're a Georgia fan. I know that, but I don't know if you thought that could be something they're interested in. What are you doing at pick 16?
I'm trading back again.
You're trading back again. Yeah,
I'm trading back again. I just don't think there was value-wise. I feel like you'd prefer to have more second and third round picks and move back maybe from 16 to somewhere in the high 20s. Then to just stay at 16 and get Jahan Dotson. Because again, a lot of teams didn't value Jahan Dotson as much as we did. And even if somebody took him, I feel like we can live without him and figure something else out. Because even me, I prefer George Pickens over Jahan Dotson just straight up, just period at the same pick at 16. So
I'm with you, dude. I'm so with you.
I'm taking the risk. I'll take the risk for sure.
I gotcha. All right, so trade back. I agree, and we'll see. Of course, it's impossible to say, okay, now who would actually be there at that pick, and also where are we trading back to? So without getting into a whole nother sidestep of what happens if we trade back, now I'm forcing you to stay at 16.
Okay,
you're at 16 because I also I agree. I would like trading back would have been just fine with me. again, if we go back into the 20s, maybe even take Devin Lloyd and just get a linebacker fix of a.
I wanted him so bad too, man.
Yeah, so that could have been an option, or maybe George Pickens later, Christian Watson if they liked him. Like we'll see. Like there's a couple of different guys or directions we could have gone back there. But or even Trent McDuffie. Okay, now we have to say at 16, what would be the pick instead?
For me, it's either Quay Walker.
Okay.
Or I'm taking a risk on Treylon Burks because I am excited. Or I don't know, it may be a little early for Daxton Hill. And then we ended up kind of getting baby Daxton Hill kind of in Percy Butler. Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, but it would have been between Quay Walker, Daxton Hill, and Treylon Burks there. But I would probably eliminate Treylon Burks because, again, in the second round, there was so many receivers. Sky Moore, Christian Watson. I feel like Alec Pierce is a little underrated. Like, I just feel like there was so many guys that the value in receiver was definitely in the second round. Again, outside, I just love Jameson Williams that much. As a Georgia fan, nobody has struck fear in my heart that much in years. Like, as an opponent, so I would have loved nothing more to have him on my team. And so it would have been definitely between those three, probably Treylon Burks third, somewhere between Quay Walker and Daxton Hill.
Okay, gotcha. What was the trade back at 16? Of course, we'll never know that. Martin Mayhew's not going to give the details of what the actual trade package was, because then we're already talking about it now. Imagine if we knew, we could have got an extra first-round pick next year, or it was something like. Imagine if we knew what was actually on the table, how much heat might be coming.
It doesn't benefit them at all to release that information in any way.
Absolutely not. So. The direction I would go at pick 16, and a lot of people would not have liked this, I would have gone tackle. I would have gone Trevor Penning. Why? Because first of all, the dude's a mammoth, okay? And he's got great feet. But I'm killing two birds with one stone, right? Sam Cosmi, kick him inside. I upgrade my guards severely, right? Huge. And then I'm upgrading at tackle because I do think Penning is an upgrade over Cosmi. So I'm upgrading two positions at once. And then on top of that, we have John Matsko, right? And basically, we're taking an approach with John Matsko of, hey, you're the best position coach we have. We're just going to give you some average players, and you're going to get the most. If we gave him Penning, we could be looking at a Hall of Fame right tackle when you have a coach and that got much of a talented human being. That's the direction that I would have gone personally if I stayed at 16. And also, this is not hindsight 2020. I said this to my dad on Skins of the Game the day before the draft. I would have traded back and taken a tackle, and I mentioned Penning. He does get his pads up a little bit too high, but get him coached up with John Matsko. All right, so you would have went defense here, Quay Walker or Daxton Hill. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I just love those players. It's not even just necessarily need.
All right, pick one.
I just feel like those players, if I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Georgia, I got to go Daxton Hill. I'm that high on Daxton Hill. I love him. I think he's really going to be good. I mean, again, even as a Georgia fan, when we went against Michigan in the playoffs, I still feel like we would have beat them by a considerable margin. But I feel like if Daxton Hill were healthy that whole week and he was able to practice, I feel like the game definitely would have been different. I feel like he would have had a way larger impact on the game.
I gotcha. All right, cool. On to the second pick, and it's the second pick in a row we didn't meet with. Also the second pick in a row that he was no clue that he was going that high into the second round, mid-second round. He thought it was a late second or sometime in the third. Federian Mathis, another Alabama defensive tackle. What did you think about this pick?
Definitely the pick I would say I like the least, because I don't necessarily hate any pick, but it's definitely the pick I feel like we've reached the furthest on.
Okay.
To me, it would have made more sense, and it hurts my heart to want to trade Duron Payne. But to me, it would have made more sense if we made that pick and we had already traded Duron Payne, maybe for like a second or a third. But like he's being brought in here, and he's going to be part of the rotation. But I just don't feel like he spent a second round pick on Matt Ioannidis, even as good as he's been. But like a potential Matt Ioannidis, I just don't see it right there. I just feel like it's too far of a reach. And then he's not like this freak athlete to where you're like, if we coach him up, maybe he becomes this star. Now you can work on his hands a little bit, and he may have some pass rush potential in that way. And he is strong, so I think he can take on double teams. And and keep our linebackers clean. Most notably, like Cole Holcomb and Jamie Davis don't want to deal with offensive linemen. So I feel like he is going to help and contribute, but I feel like you can get a player like that later. Even though it did look like, when the draft continued, it looked like the Cowboys may have wanted him. I forgot there was another team that ended up drafting defensive line behind him. Maybe he would have been gone before he got to us in the third round anyway.
Right. Yeah. I didn't like the fact that we all of a sudden felt like we needed to replace a guy or two guys that were drafted in the 5th round.
Yeah.
Now we have to replace him with a 2nd rounder all of a sudden.
Yes.
Like that to me didn't.
And on top of it, it's a need because we allowed it to be a need. We let 2 guys leave. We were planning on not paying the other one. It's like we literally created the need just to fill it and in the 2nd round. And that's also why I didn't like, because it just felt like a circle of stupid. Like it just, we did this to ourselves. Like we're legitimizing the need, but we created the need. And I just, didn't like
I'm not hating on him too much for Settle, because there's a good chance Settle didn't want to be here as a 4th string.
Larger role.
Yeah, he wanted to get potential starting reps, and he has that potential over there in Buffalo.
Agreed.
Obviously, the money, I would have paid him that easily. What was it, $5 million a year or something like that? Yeah, I would have done that in a heartbeat. But I don't think he wanted to be here, so I don't blame them for that.
Agreed.
As much as Matt Ioannidis, that you basically cut him, in my opinion, for no reason. Like, you didn't need that $6 million that you saved. How dare you have a foot? No, I'm just kidding. But you didn't need that $6 million that you saved. So I completely agree. But to talk positive about Federian Mathis, he is an absolute double team eater. Like I was watching him against Georgia, against your boys, and that dude barely loses ground. Like he holds his ground at the line of scrimmage better than, or as good as anybody that I've seen, honestly, because it's just awesome. He does not lose ground. And then he does have 9 sacks, but of course, nobody pretends that he's a pass rusher from the inside. Yeah. But what he is, and what those 9 sacks do show, is hustle. A never-ending motor.
Agreed.
Get after the quarterback. And I respect that. That's why we liked Matt Ioannidis when we drafted him in the 5th. A never-ending motor out of Temple. So I do kind of agree I do 100% agree that I didn't want to use a 2nd rounder to fix a problem that you created, but we did. So, and you kind of touched on it. What do you see this future of Duron Payne? Do you think he stays this year, or you think there's a chance he's gone? And of course, it's almost written in stone that he's gone next year. But what do you think about Duron potentially even this year?
I don't know. I think he plays his last year, and I mean, maybe, hopefully, if the cap space goes up, it takes a bigger leap than we expect. Maybe we figure something out, or maybe we just give up on the whole Carson Wentz experiment. That technically frees up a lot of cap space next year, because technically he will take no dead cap. So I think he'll end up being here this year, and I think they're willing to play the waiting game. I don't think we're going to end up in another Brandon Sheriff, Kirk Cousins franchise tag situation. I think he either stays or goes. And I think they're just willing to take potentially like a 3rd round compensatory pick if they have to. If people are lowballing him, lowballing us for him and offering only like 5ths at the highest or something like that.
Right. And I could totally see a potential maybe at the trade deadline if the season's not going the direction that we go, and that's a must. If we are sitting here at when's the trade deadline? Usually around week 10. I guess sometime late November, mid to late November, I think. Am I crazy? Or is it early November? Maybe it's early November. Either way, if we're sitting here with 2 or 3 wins, stop this nonsense. Oh, we have to make the playoffs at 7-10 or 8-9 or whatever. Oh, we have a shot because Dallas sucks now and all. No, stop that. Get value, whatever you can. If it's a 7th rounder, do something if you know that you're not going to sign Duron Payne, because we know we ain't doing anything this year if we have that kind of a record. All right. But I actually do agree with you, though. I think that he will play out this year, because I think we're trying to win now. We've made the spots to try to win now. And I think we should end up with a nice record considering our schedule. But we'll talk more about that later probably as well. But here we go. Brian Robinson Jr. Pick in the 3rd round, pick number 98. Again, a guy that was sitting Leo Chenal that I wanted really bad there in the 2nd. And he's now falls somehow to 98. And also, I skipped what we would do it the second round because we both agree George Pickens is our pick at the second round, correct?
Oh yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's not even a question. Okay. Because me and you are on the same wavelength of George Pickens. I think that this guy could end up being the best receiver in this class.
Same here.
Like
yes.
He has that kind of potential. AJ Green 2.0, another Georgia Bulldog, right?
With an attitude. AJ Green with an attitude that wants to pancake DBs and running plays. Like, and it's crazy too, because my Steelers fan friend had him as his wide receiver 1 before the draft. So when they took him, I just knew he was doing backflips. But also, the Steelers taking him, I feel like, validated our opinion on him, because they, out of any team in the NFL, has hit back-to-back on receivers for years now. And the fact that they love George Pickens makes me feel like, you know what? I feel like we know what we're talking about if the Steelers view him as a really good receiver, because they've hit nonstop on a whole bunch of underrated guys back-to-back.
You're talking
even if they come with attitude problems and end up leaving.
We're right on the. That's what I told you. We are on the same page. Like, me and you are not. There's no separation. We are here together on George Pickens. Everything you just said. So, all right, Brian Robinson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Big boy running back, 6'1", 225, coming out of Alabama, had like 79 or something broken tackles last year. He had something, I think it was like 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, a nice year for the Bama, 1-year starter. How'd you feel about this one at 98?
So I thought it was a slight reach as well, but I definitely didn't feel like it was the same reach as Federian, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the thing I like the most is that he doesn't fumble. I think that's just funny. Like, they're tired of Antonio Gibson fumbling, so they got the least fumbling running back in the draft. Like, I felt like that was a direct message to him. I mean, of course, you want to bring him in as a power back. You hope he can contribute on third downs as a, he has some strength in pass blocking. He has an attitude with him. He doesn't have the technique. He's not J.D. McKissick yet, but there's potential there. And then, he usually catches what's thrown to him, even though he didn't get a lot of targets at running back. But I just felt like it was really funny that they were like, Antonio Gibson, you keep fumbling. We're drafting the guy in the third round that literally never fumbles. And so I thought that was funny, because you could argue maybe like Isaiah Spiller is probably a better overall running back. They went directly with the guy that doesn't fumble, and I thought that was really funny. But yeah, again, I just felt like it was a slight reach. But if they view him as more of like not just a Peyton Barber, if they view him higher than that, which of course I think anybody should.
If you're taking him in the third, you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think they value that more than even we do as fans, because remember when we released Peyton Barber, they thought he would clear waivers. They could just bring him back in the back door. They were surprised when the Raiders took him. They were like, wait, we didn't know anybody else wanted him. So they actually really value Peyton Barber as like an exact role on the offense. And so I feel like they feel like this is probably our best pick in the draft, because you're not only getting Peyton Barber, you're getting better Peyton Barber in every way.
Yeah. I feel you. I, of course, again, did not like this pick, but especially considering who was on the board, and we mentioned his name, so I think we're on the same page again.
Big Chanel.
Yeah, Leo Chanel. Come on, baby. But I would not hate this pick if, in my opinion, they hit on the first 2 rounds, right? Like, I would actually be okay with Brian Robinson. But considering we didn't take a linebacker, we didn't take a wide receiver with size, we didn't go safety, like we didn't go in a lot of different directions that we could have gone in the first 2 rounds, I, again, just really dislike this pick. Also, somebody had said in the chat, Kalen Meekins, 81 broken tackles, 500-plus carries, no fumbles, and no injuries. And you are not the only one to say this, so I'm not picking on you specifically. There's a lot of people that say he had no fumbles, but I don't know if ESPN's just wrong, but he's had a fumble or 1 fumble each year that he's played, according to the game logs. He had it against Texas A&M last year. He had one against Auburn the year before that. So I don't know if they just made this up on ESPN or if somebody made up no fumble thing. But I'm not even pretending that's on the same stratosphere as Gibby, right? Gibby had like the most fumbles. So obviously he's a better ball carrier. But I bring that up because there's another guy that I would have liked, and that's the theme. And that's the theme of when that's what happens. You talk about what you would have done when you don't like the draft. It is what it is. There's a guy in the 4th round they could have grabbed at pick 113, Hassan Haskins from Michigan, who had better stats, 20 touchdowns, 4.9 yards a carry instead of only 4.8, 14 touchdowns for Robinson. But he truly, according to the game logs, had 0 fumbles his entire career, according to the game logs throughout. So,
okay.
And I think he has more top-end speed, so he could become potentially a more all-around back, because when I looked into Robinson last year, he had one 63-yard run, but that was against New Mexico State. They beat him 59-3. Outside of that, his longest run was 37, and then outside of that, his longest run is 24. So he does not have breakaway speed at all to get into the second level, and with behind that offensive line, you would have thought like he would have at least some that he broke for 50, right? Like broken coverage or something. He had one, according to this. So I was not super impressed with this pick, but with Gibby situation, injuries maybe, but let's take injuries off the board. Let's say Gibby's healthy. Do you think there's a chance Brian Robinson actually becomes RB1 this season for Washington?
Nah, I don't. Antonio Gibson will have to be it would have to be like back-to-back fumbles. I feel like even if he fumbled, maybe they try to, like, you know how we benched him last year for like a quarter? They would probably give Brian Robinson that quarter. Then I feel like Antonio Gibson would just come back and be the starter the next week. I feel like they're going to just run Antonio Gibson to the ground until his rookie contract is probably up. Maybe, maybe they don't resign. I don't know. But I don't think this year he has a chance. But yeah, to your point, the main reason that this draft, especially the first 3 rounds where we are right now, it's who's available. 3rd round, Leo Chenal instead of Brian Robinson. For us, George Pickens instead of Federian Mathis. 1st round for me, Jameson Williams or Kyle Hamilton instead of Jahan Dotson. Like, the picks themselves aren't that bad, and they are slight reaches. But the main reason I'm angry about the picks is because of who we could have had. And also in the second, Jaquan Brisker to handle that, safety situation. I think that could have been a great pick.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a matter, I completely agree. It's a matter of what could have been.
Yes.
What could have been. And that's what's sad. And it's like, I don't want to be this way. I just watched a video of, what's her name? She Got Sports or something that somebody shared. I think it was Rio shared, like, checking in on the enemy, where She Got Sports is just cheering her head off because she got her dream scenario of Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal for the Giants, right? And it's like, I would love to be that way. Like, I'd love to be jumping up for joy because I got the dream scenario for my Washington football team, or Washington Commanders now. But unfortunately, just not the world we live in, and I have to live in reality. But I was a little upset we didn't get not getting Brisker, but I remember who my team is. I'm a numb fan.
I'm a numb fan. Yeah, that's basically kind of how it is. Just going with the flow. Don't get your hopes up too much. Just go with it.
Absolutely. All right. So round number 4, Percy Butler, the 6', 194, supposedly a true safety, according to Chris Sims. Did we get a true free safety here, or did we get Apke 2.0?
All right, so when we first took him, I wasn't exactly sure about him because I didn't watch a lot of tape on him. Going back, I definitely like him instinctually because I feel like literally everything wrong with Troy Apke is the mental part of everything. I feel like Percy Butler has at least by default more than what Troy Apke has. So I think he's going to be able to it's really not much of a comparison. It's not like, oh, he's better than Troy Apke. That's not really saying much. But I think instinctually, and I feel like range isn't just speed. Like, it's definitely a lot of being able to know what's going to happen before it happens, reading, what the receivers are doing, where the quarterback's looking. Because you have guys like Justin Simmons is running 4.5 somethings. Anthony Harris ran 4.5 somethings. It's not like the 4.3 guys are automatically you're free safety. You're an all-pro free safety. So he does come with that speed. Also, when after Chris Sims tweeted it, I went and looked to like specifically look for, does Kenny really cover? Like, can he really man cover? I saw a little potential there as well. Whereas I wouldn't really imagine Troy Apke trying to man cover a receiver. So I think he's going to be better, but I'm definitely not as bullish on him as Chris Sims yet. I just got to see.
Yeah, nobody is. I don't, except for Ron Rivera, I guess. Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew might be on the same page as Chris Sims. Maybe they watch Chris Sims. Who knows? But
yeah, man.
But I am worried that we're going to get a little bit 2.0, but I did, to your point of watching him in man-to-man get in this Shrine Bowl, he guarded a running back I really liked coming out, Ty Chandler from UNC, and he was able to knock a ball away on a little out and in, the angle route from the end zone and the goal line, and he was able to knock it away. So I was like, okay, he shows definitely a little something there. But to me, he just looked a little soft out from the free safety spot of coming up. He looked like he was a little hesitant. And he didn't. So I don't know if that's because he's playing with a bunch of dudes he doesn't know. Maybe he's also not trying to hurt anybody. He's like, dude, this is a for fun game. We're not trying to win. So maybe he's trying to be kind, which would be awesome. But that's technically what I watched is the Shrine Bowl. So maybe that's all it was. But I am the one thing that I'll say about this pick that I was happy about is, to me, this is the first time we drafted a legitimate need in the whole draft at pick 4, because Jahan Dotson, to me, we didn't just need a wide receiver. We needed a wide receiver with size.
I agree.
To
a different play style from Terry. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
We basically have 4 of Jahan Dotsons. And yeah, Jahan Dotson is better than De'Ami Brown, but a 6 foot or under 200 pounds, running around a 4.44 or lower with solid hands. Yeah, like we have a bunch of these. Like and to me, he's a first round pick at pick 16 that also doesn't even come in as our wide receiver 2. Like, I think Curtis Samuel is a better receiver, especially with how many years he has in the league. So he's not even a wide receiver. He's wide receiver 3 coming in here. So maybe he will play on the outside. We'll see what he ends up doing. But again, 5'10.5", 180 pounds. I understand you did great at Penn State. There it is. But to me, this is the first time we drafted a legitimate need. That's not a rotational player, not a backup. And I was happy about that. And I'm happy to hear a lot of people really praising this pick. Like, it's around all of the critics. You did your video of talking about all the critics, and it seemed like everybody loved this 4th round pick.
Yeah, again, when we picked them, I was completely unaware. I was nowhere near as high on them as other people.
Yeah.
Once they started talking about them and I went and watched film on them, whatever I could find, not necessarily exactly film, but everything I could find, I started to warm up to the pick a lot more. And also, not only is it the first time we picked need, it's the first time we picked ceiling in the draft. And that's what I was happy about. We finally went after a little bit of potential, not exactly what he's going to contribute day one. This guy has potential to be something special. You just got to coach him up. And that's always been my point. Now, don't draft ceiling all draft, but you pay these coaches millions of dollars. And I feel like the primary job description of a coach is player development. Of course, there's scheme, there's calling plays, there's all of this type of stuff. But I feel like what you do as far as player development goes is how you make your money. What are we paying these guys millions of dollars for if you're bringing in a whole bunch of guys that don't need your coaching to play well? So
they're already developed.
Like they're already So it's just like I understand going floor at times, but I want to see a lot more ceiling. So that's the reason I was mostly happy about Percy Butler. Not even him as a player, but we were finally looking at ceiling.
That's a great point. And I definitely see the potential ceiling that you're talking about. A 4.36 guy, 6 foot 194 with some potential. Those guys do have the big time ceiling because you can't reach a 4.3. At least that's what I've read. And then I heard somebody else say 4.39. Do you know what his 40 was?
I thought it was somewhere closer to the 4.36s that you said.
That's what I thought. But okay. If we don't know, we don't know. That's fine. But either way, he's a sub 4.4. That's for sure. So, and you can't teach that. So that's good. All right. Before we get into a lot of people's favorite pick of the draft, you said something that's kind of interesting about the coaching, and it's a great point. That's another reason why I did not want to go D-line in the first 3 picks. What has our defensive line coach done to deserve a 2nd round pick? He's had 4 or 5 first round picks, and they are regressing by just about every metric, right? Like,
that's a good point.
So why are we giving him such a high value pick to potentially not get anything extra out of? And again, to my point with John Matsko, he's been getting anything out of anybody that he puts in there. And we had a chance to maybe give him something that could turn into a super high guy. So
the first time we go online is 7th round. Like, here, you're so good at what you do. We're just gonna keep giving you 7th rounders. You'll figure it out.
you'll do it. You'll do it. Right. And maybe he loves that. Maybe he's going to Ron and said, I don't want a first rounder. Give me something I need to work for. Maybe he's got that kind of a work ethic, but we'll see. All right. Either you Love this pick, and I actually don't know your thoughts. I don't know if I heard about this one or not. So either it's an A++ pick, or you hate the fact we drafted a quarterback, point blank, period. There is no in between here. You're not
Yeah, there's no in
lukewarm
between.
on this pick. Sam Howell out of UNC. What do you think about here? First pick of the 5th round.
I guess I'm one of the A++s, even though, again, I'm more of a Malik Willis guy. I'm more ceiling. I'm more coach him up. I see a lot of the raw. Same thing with Sam Howell. There's a ceiling there. There's some raw there as well. But you could definitely argue if he were eligible to come out of the draft last year, instead of having to wait until after your junior, just because according to the rules, you could argue he would have been one of the top quarterbacks taken in that quarterback class that had several guys in the first round. Definitely after Trey Lance, but probably maybe before Justin Fields, maybe before Mac Jones. Depends on how people view him. And so I like another ceiling pick. We went 2 ceiling picks in a row, so I was very happy about that. And I'm just happy we brought in at least somebody, because we know Taylor Heinicke's going to be dependable, but there's no chance Taylor Heinicke's going to dethrone Carson Wentz other than Carson Wentz getting hurt or just playing terribly. So I'm glad that we did bring in a guy that maybe he's the franchise quarterback, and you spent the 5th round pick on him, which, I mean, you hope to get contributors all along the draft, but a 5th round pick at that point, and one you didn't have before coming into the draft, I'm definitely fine with it.
Yeah, and I was not a Malik Willis fan at all when I first talk about a guy that just has so many plays that you're just like, what are you thinking?
Hero ball. Straight hero ball.
It was like, I saw him spin in the pocket for no reason. There was nobody there. He just spun. I'm like, what are you doing?
Paranoid. It was PTSD. The O-line was so bad he had PTSD.
I'm like, he just spun for no reason and then ended up getting it to sack, right? I'm like,
I think Tennessee's literally going to have to hit the reset button with him, because it's just like O-line's bad, so he's bailing on clean pockets all the time. He's throwing passes into triple covered receivers because, first of all, they normally don't separate. And even so, like, he's just like, I gotta be the one to make the play. This has to be a touchdown, this play. There's no first down. No, this needs to be a touchdown right now from the 50-yard line. So if they can reset that, I think he'll be straight, but that's not something easy to reset. So I see both sides of it. For
right. So, but I do see, obviously, a super strong arm, great ability to escape the pocket, great speed. So accuracy, I think, is a problem with him too. He's got to work on that, in my opinion. Like, he got bailed out with one of the worst passes I've ever seen in the Senior Bowl. He somehow got a pass interference on Kobe Bryant, because that thing was horrible. But anyway, on to the guy that we took, because also Malik Willis was not here at 5th round. He went in the 3rd. This is just, I think this is arguably, I mean, honestly, actually, inarguably, this is the best pick in the draft to me. And it's crazy to say that because he may never play. Let alone first year. He may never play. If Carson Wentz hits, he may play out his entire rookie career never playing, right? And I understand that. I will acknowledge that. But he had the 2nd highest Wonderlic score in going into this draft, behind Bailey Zapp. So a 34, which is a perfect dude that you want as a backup. A high IQ individual that can learn by watching, can read the playbook, can understand the game before he ever has to take reps. So in a case of a Carson Wentz, Taylor Heinicke both hurt, this guy should have an understanding by that point, as long as it doesn't happen in week 2. But, you know, assuming it happens 11, 12, 13, this guy by that point should have a great understanding of where he is at the position.
That's a great point.
I was also surprised by this. He wanted to be in Washington the whole time. That's what he said. And a lot of people say that, right? So you take that with a grain of salt. But Rio had Josh Taylor on, who's another YouTuber that's coming up, but he went to the Senior Bowl and actually met Sam Howell, and he corroborates this. He says that, he wanted to come to Washington, maybe the Diami here. I don't know. Are you surprised that somebody outside the DMV area actually wanted to play for the Washington Commanders?
That's so sad. I mean, maybe, and I felt like this was a sales pitch to like the guys like Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers to be like the first big time franchise quarterback for technically a new rebrand. Maybe that's attracted to him. You can tell by his personality. I'm not saying he's flashy, but he's confident. And you can tell that, like, if he ends up dethroning Carson Wentz, he's going to wear that on his shoulders and be very proud about it. So maybe that, I guess. And then, of course, you know, just with history and the Carolina Panthers came a little late, maybe some of his family, like older family. I believe somebody interviewed him. He said his uncle was a burgundy and gold fan. So like he has family members that are burgundy and gold fans because again, the Carolina Panthers weren't there yet. So maybe there's that. But I think to your point, De'Ami Brown's probably the main point of it. I mean, you saw the FaceTime.
Yeah.
I think he's immediately gonna win the locker room, and I'm rooting for Carson Wentz, especially since we traded all those picks for him. But Sam Howell is going to win the locker room day one. I just can't see how his personality, how him and De'Ami Brown are gonna get along. They're gonna have their secret dabs and all the jokes and stuff, and everybody's gonna look like, man, I wish Carson Wentz was that fun. That's just gonna be that. But if Carson Wentz goes out there and wins, it's not gonna matter. But of course, Sam Howell, I think he's automatically gonna be one of the stars in the locker room as far as the guy that everybody wants to hang around and talk to, kind of like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but a little bit different, a little bit younger.
I gotcha. Yeah, that's fair. And another guy with a great Wonderlic score, his was even higher though. I think 48 or something stupid. Ryan Fitzpatrick has one of the highest Wonderlic scores ever. But anyway, but it is an interesting comp. A stronger armed Fitzpatrick with a little bit more, a younger Fitzpatrick basically. But I don't know. Like, do you have a comp for Sam Howell? Like, who do you see him as in the league?
I think he's so unique because, I mean, there is the running ability, but I feel like it was more so the team was so bad. If I don't run the ball, who will? Yeah. And just with his size, I don't necessarily know how much is going to translate, but I hope it does. I hope we can run the read option. He can run for 10 yards, just like how Daniel Jones has sneaky speed. I hope we can do that back to the Giants. And then he has the ability to kind of run people over, but will that translate at the NFL level? Who knows? I feel like it's certain parts of the game because I feel like I do agree when some people say that he sees the field better than any quarterback in his class, even though he is 6 feet. So that he has that part of Drew Brees in him. He's not Drew Brees, but he has that, even though he's 6 foot even, he can sit in the pocket and see the field. Unlike guys like, Kyler Murray, he has to get outside the pocket to truly see the field. Not saying he's Justin Herbert at all, but team was terrible around him. You can talk about the coaching. Who does he throw to? Offensive line not protecting him. So a lot of the reason why people felt like, and me included, felt like Justin Herbert was so bad coming out of the draft was because he just has so many bad habits built up from being on such a terrible team. The offense, Oregon, whatever they do is just nowhere near NFL. North Carolina running a lot of read option. So you just wonder about how well they can translate. And to your point, I didn't know the Wonderlic thing. Love that point. He's probably one of the guys that you can put your trust in more than others to adjust from a read option offense to a more NFL caliber offense. So I don't know. It's just bits and pieces. He has a really strong arm. I don't feel like it's Malik Willis or Carson Strong, but maybe right behind them as far as this class goes. I feel like there's a lot you can do with him though.
Fair enough. Yeah. Somebody else mentioned it with the Russell Wilson comp. Did you mention that? I'm not sure.
No, I actually didn't mention that, but I can kind of see that. I can see
especially where he went in the draft.
Oh yeah, literally fifth.
So Russell, I think, was a 4th, but I mean, first pick of the 5th. I think it's the same, basically the same here. So yes, he's basically Heineke with the deep ball. That's interesting.
Kind of agree.
Interesting comp.
They can break tackles.
They could break tackles, true. Even though Heineke, man, he's got magic. He doesn't need to break tackles. Somehow he just ducks and everybody misses him, and he gets up and he keeps running. And you're like, what? How did that happen? So I love those moments of Heineke. So those were fun. But all right, here's an interesting one. If Carson fails this season, and assuming now because he failed that Washington has a relatively high draft pick, with this Sam Howell pick, do you think Washington, if they end up somehow with the top 10 pick, goes quarterback next year? Or do they think, hey, we got our future already. We could cut Carson, and now we could use that top 10 to go any direction and just ride with Sam Howell? Do you think they still go quarterback or stick with Sam?
That's so hard to guess because it just depends on how the season goes. Yeah. Carson Wentz gets hurt, maybe Taylor Heineke gets hurt, and we actually get to see a little Sam Howell in the regular season.
Yeah.
Then maybe they can convince themselves. I don't, because a 5th round pick can't stop you from taking a quarterback that you love. Because Ron Rivera, they said he clearly went to Ohio State's pro day and not only loved Chris Olave, but showed a lot of interest in CJ Stroud. If he's an option there. Yeah. So I don't think Sam Howell should stop you from taking that guy, but I'm rooting for him. I want him to work out because I prefer to use that pick next year on one of the, because I think this next class is about to have a lot of elite players at different position groups. And of course, there's going to be quarterbacks, but I prefer best case scenario, Sam Howell, franchise quarterback, and we can address the first round with a different position group next year for sure.
100% agree. Because if you can get a starting quarterback on that kind of a salary, I mean, that's setting yourself up big time. And then you save
only thing we're missing is
million.
The fifth year. That's all we're missing is the fifth year option. That's it.
So if you save $26 million on Carson Wentz's deal, and I think we already have a decent amount of cap space, then you of course, some of that goes to Terry, maybe some goes to Duron now with extra cap space, maybe, like, and then you could start building through free agency again, and then you have a whole draft, and it could get pretty spicy now with what we've seen the last couple of years.
Just even to your point,
but
and I definitely want to give you credit for this. Super Bowl, you can't win a Super Bowl with a quarterback taking up a certain percentage of your cap space. The Super Bowl window is a quarterback on a rookie contract. As great as Pat Mahomes has been, as great as Josh Allen has been, you can't win with them on those crazy contracts mega deals. They've got. It's so difficult to put together. You have to hit on pretty much at least 5 draft picks every year that are going to be certified starters to even try to build a team that can go win a Super Bowl around a quarterback eating up $40 million a year and stuff like that. So yeah, ideally somehow works out. We have him on a rookie deal. We can hit free agency running.
Yep, fair enough. All right, couple more picks here. We're getting late into it. We got another 5th rounder, Cole Turner, tight end, big boy, 6'6", 6'7", 250 pounds, receiver. He was a receiver that ended up becoming a tight end. What do you think about this 5th round pick?
I like it a lot. It's probably the floor pick that I like the most as far as value, because of course Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, Federian Mathis were all floor picks. And we're talking about value, Cole Turner in the 5th and match, because Carson Wentz, we tried everything we could to get Zach Ertz, and then we didn't. And so I think they're hoping Cole Turner could basically be what Zach Ertz was. Now, of course, he has to work a lot on his blocking. He has the body for it, just not the technique. And so I think early on, he can pretty much be a big slot kind of Mike Gesicki like. And I'd be really excited about that with the catch radius. I like the pick a lot. Now, he was not even one of my top 3, maybe even 5 tight ends. I love Greg Dulcich a lot. I was really hoping we got Greg Dulcich. Also like Jelani Woods a lot, but I feel like Cole Turner makes a lot of sense for this team because we already have John Bates, who's going to be the dual threat inline tight end. We've seen what he can do. You get and I think John Bates is going to contribute in the passing game as well, but you get Carson Wentz, a pass catching option. Ron Rivera, with his offense, only worked when he had Greg Olsen. Carson Wentz was at his best with Zach Ertz. I think Cole Turner made a lot of sense in that way for sure.
Fair enough. Honestly, this is a guy that I wasn't really interested in going into the draft because when I studied Carson Strong, you see a lot of Cole Turner, obviously, and there was a lot of drops. He seems more of just a zone beater, but he is a guy in the red zone that could be a serious threat. Like I'm not gonna be surprised at all if we see him out wide in, within the 5-yard line and just give him a fade and see what happens with that big body frame, especially if the matchup is correct. But okay, so this is one of your favorite floor picks. Interesting. All right.
Yeah, again, I wouldn't even probably say he was a top 5 tight end. But for the match and trying to give Carson Wentz his favorite target, I mean, just Alshon Jeffrey, the Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert. I think it would. And then how he had Michael Pittman last year. Since we didn't take the big receiver like me and you wanted, Cole Turner just made more sense at that point. But yeah, going into the draft, he wasn't. Maybe he may have been number 5, but I was a big Greg Dulcich and Jelani Woods guy. I really wanted them, or even Chig a little bit later. I really wanted one of those guys.
Oh, from Maryland.
Yes, I like Chig's potential a lot. Raw, but crazy.
But
potential.
I'm also not going to beat him up for a 5th round pick. It's a 5th round.
Yeah, it's just
so I beat him up enough for the first 3 that I'm like I'm beat out. I'm the guy that swung too many times at Ali, and I'm just too tired to continue to hate on them for 5th round picks. But all right, we drafted CP, not the 3, but the 7th. CP the 7th, offensive lineman out of Tulsa. And we finally got the best in the draft at something, and that's singing. He's an R&B singer.
I wasn't ready for that. I saw the music video, but I still wasn't ready.
So we finally got the best at something. So they drafted value here, I guess. But Chris Paul VII, have you had a chance to look into him yet?
Yes, I mean, I like his versatility. He's not like a crazy athlete that you can mold into like a potential Pro Bowler or all pro in the late rounds type of risk. But I mean, first of all, we drafted a whole bunch of seniors. Sam Howell is the youngest player we drafted, I think, by far. I think by at least like 2 years or something.
I think
so. The pick made sense. We're just going seniors, high character. I think he was like part of some committee for the NCAA. Positional flex, played both guard positions and tackle. He's definitely more of a guard at the NFL level, but you never know if there's a slew of injuries. Maybe he steps in and tackle if we need him to. So the pick made sense. And looking around, a lot of draft analysts love the pick. They feel like after Sam Howell, he's our best pick value-wise. They feel like he should have gone way sooner because they felt like his counterpart, Tyler Smith, was clearly better than him, but maybe not a whole 6 rounds difference of better than him type of thing.
Right. Have you had a chance to go back and watch the Ohio State game?
Not specifically, no.
I recommend it because there's a strong argument that he played better than Tyler Smith in that game, where the defensive ends were switching a lot, that he was doing a tremendous job making sure the guys get around the pocket, having a strong anchor. That's the one game that I watched because I like to go whenever I look at a dude, I don't have time to watch every single game. So I like to pick out, all right, who's their best opponent? Yeah, the biggest competition, and that's who I'm going to go scout. That's why I watched Brian Robinson against Georgia, Federian Mathis against Georgia.
I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. I mean, you're the champions. Come on, right? This is, of course, I'm going to watch, and that's why I picked Percy Butler playing in a smaller conference. I picked the Shrine Bowl to watch him play against other top guys. I already watched a lot of Sam Howell. I didn't need to watch that. I already watched a lot of Cole Turner. I didn't need to watch that. But Chris Paul, I was very impressed. The one thing I don't know how well he is at run blocking because of what they asked him to do. He basically just seal hinged the backside the whole time. So he got in there and he did a great job at it. I had no complaints. It's just, is that going to translate like where we need you to go ahead and push a dude out of the way? If you're going to play guard, you got to be able to push a 320-pound dude in front of you up the field. I don't know about that one yet. But anyway, I gave this pick an A as well. I don't think you can get much better value here in the 7th, and you're giving them to John Matsko, where he may have a chance. So I gave this pick an A. I thought it was actually a really good pick. And now we move on to the other 7th rounder, Christian Holmes out of Oklahoma State. What's your thoughts on this guy?
It's a weird pick for me because I feel like I just know less about him than like 5 or more undrafted free agents. Like I don't know. It's hard for me to grade this pick. I think I just need to go back and look at more film. But
yeah,
I don't know. He's kind of a mystery to me. Again, another super.
Well, he didn't even have a PFF grade. That's how much mystery is.
He's just like a mystery. We have undrafted free agents with more notoriety than this guy. So I don't want to automatically hate on the pick because I don't know who he is. But I mean, the things I do know is just, the high character, the possibly positional flex that could play corner, maybe some safety, but not again. I prefer if you're in the later round, start taking the athletic freaks that you can try to mold. But I understand
this guy isn't it.
But I understand they're just trying to get seniors, guys that can step in day one if there's an injury type of thing, so that they can compete immediately. So I guess I'm waiting for you. If you've seen a lot on them, let me know because I
watched him in the Oklahoma game. So that's the game I decided to watch. And to me, this is a scheme fit because he played a lot of zone corner. And Jack Del Rio loves to play his zone. We love to play William Jackson out of position. We love our zone. So I thought this was actually an interesting scheme fit. He's not small at 6'1" or 6 foot 205. So he's got some girth to him. He's not afraid to come up in the run game and make tackles. I think he had like 55 tackles as a boundary corner. So I thought that was nice. So he's not afraid to come up and make a hit. He had only 1 interception that I watched. It wasn't against Oklahoma. It was against somebody else, but I saw that on the game log, he had 1 pick, so I wouldn't watched it. And he jammed the dude at the line on a slant. I think it was against West Virginia, and he ended up jumping the route, tipped it, got it himself. And he went to the ground, picked it up, and ran up the field like as if it was NFL. So he's ready for the NFL. But of course, in college, as soon as you hit the ground, you're down. But he probably never had the ball in his hands before. I mean, this is his only pick of the year. So he's like, hey, I got it, So I don't know about man-to-man. He did have one in the Oklahoma where he was in the slot. He ended up getting called for PI. He didn't get his head around. So man-to-man, he probably has some work to do. But again, 7th round pick. What are you going to do? All right.
Yeah.
Are there any undrafted free agents? You said you saw a couple of them. It's an undrafted free agent. Most likely they're going to be nothing. But is there anybody that you're looking at that says, hey, he might be a Jarrett Patterson and make the squad?
Armani Rogers, man. He is my favorite.
The quarterback from UNLV that now the tight end, right?
Yes. Yep. I even mocked him to us like a month ago. I love the potential that he has. He's the super crazy high ceiling guy. Not maybe to the extent of a Samus Reyes ceiling, but very close as far as athleticism.
Yep.
But of course he's raw because he's quarterback going to tight end. Mm-hmm. But it's not Samus Reyes. He doesn't know what zone coverage is just a few months ago. It's not I'm new to football, period, raw. He was a quarterback. Like at least he knows and that's why I think Logan Thomas works really well as a tight end because he knows what a quarterback wants. He knows how to make his body available. He knows how to beat certain zones because he knows what the quarterback wants in the receiver as a tight end. So I think that's going to translate pretty well. You just got to work with his route running because it's not because Logan Thomas is also different. He was recruited as a tight end, switched to quarterback in college, and then went back to tight end at the NFL. No, this guy was quarterback the whole way through. Gotcha. So he's going to be more raw than a Logan Thomas, but again, not nowhere near to the extent of the Samus Reyes. And I think that freak athleticism, when in doubt, he's a little undersized. So yeah, maybe you could say he's maybe like a Chase Claypool type of like athleticism. It's literally that type of guy. Okay. And so he's my favorite. I also like the linebacker from Louisiana. Farad. Farad Gardner. Yes. I think because he was a linebacker straight up all in Louisiana. Now, when you look at when we signed him, he's listed as safety. So I think he's one of our leading candidates to try to, if we don't bring back Landon Collins, I think it's going to be between him, Khalid Hudson, and Derek Forrest, maybe Jamin Davis if he loses some weight competing for that Buffalo nickel role that they covet so much. So I think those are my two that I'm definitely keeping my eye on them. And then, of course, when you draft a 6'7" quarterback, that's always fun, even though he's probably just going to end up being, Steven Montez, but that's just fun. That's gonna be fun
Cole
for
Kelly
preseason and camp. Yeah, Cole Kelly. Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it's gonna be fun. I'm not sure if it's gonna amount to anything, but a 6'7" quarterback in preseason, in training camp, that's just gonna be fun in itself.
Gotcha. All right, let's do what everybody hates to do and grade this class. What are you giving this as a grade?
I have two different ones. In my heart, the highest I can get.
That's all that I care about. That's all I care about. I don't need this. I don't need this qualified nonsense of you never know, maybe it'll work. Blah, blah, blah. No, give me your honest opinion of where do you see this draft class as, and you say the highest you can go is C-.
Man, because I'm just super Jameson Williams, Kyle Hamilton, or Kyle Hamilton, George Pickens in the second. And all of this was completely possible. It's not like I'm reaching in is like they weren't available. We could have had that maybe if we traded up. No, you could have sat exactly with the picks you had at Kyle Hamilton, George Pickens. I feel like we should have gotten Zion McCollum later. I love him. It's just so many guys that I love that they didn't take. And so I really don't want to hurt them too much for not taking who I wanted because I'm not getting paid millions to do it. But in my heart, man, it just it hurts so much watching that flat. I'm gonna go flat C. Because I think Jahan is gonna actually surprise people and may end up being better than Chris Olave. So I'm gonna go flat C for now. We'll see.
Yeah, I gave them a 69 out of 100. So you could round it up to a C- if you're a nice teacher. But in reality, to me, this is a D+, okay? Because I just don't see the imminent need of a 5'10.5", 180-pound wide receiver, of a defensive tackle where you already have 2 first-round picks, and a running back that you already have a guy that you really like that has some talent, back-to-back 1,000-yard receivers. Yeah, would I have liked all of those positions? Well, not the 5'10.5" receiver, but would I have liked a D tackle and a running back at some point? Sure. But I feel like they flipped the needs on its head and drafted what they should have drafted later early and then vice versa, right?
Corner, guard, tight end, quarterback, safety.
Yeah, they like
going in backwards
on its head, right? Of what we needed. And now we're sitting here with a very
no linebacker
meh draft class. And why the lower grade is, it has to be a lower grade because of what could have been. Like we've been talking about this whole time. Like the fact that I could have right now Trevor Penning, George Pickens, Leo Chenal,
Jaquan Brisker.
Yeah, well, that's just my draft. Yeah, you could go into 50 different ways.
So many different ways you can.
That's my draft, and I feel like we have potential top 10 players at every position there. Like that's the potential for all three of those guys: a top 10 linebacker, a top 10 receiver in the league, and a top 10 right tackle.
Agreed.
Like that's what. Instead, now we have, maybe a top 25 receiver, top 20 if he gets going pretty well. Of course he can hit the Antonio Brown level potential.
Yeah. I've seen that comp from one person.
Yeah, and similar size, similar speed, like all the great hands. He's got to be, and he loves to study his route running and have an understanding of route running, so that's good. But I don't know. I'm harsh on this draft class, and it sucks. And I don't like to say that. Somebody, negative fan, blah blah blah, whatever. I would love to come on here and tell you guys that I give this an A or a B plus. Like I love this thing. But when day 3 is 100 times better than day 1 and 2,
agreed.
You're not getting a higher pick. You're not going to get a high grade from me. All right. So a couple last things here, because after the draft, we did have a couple of signings now. Trey Turner, the guard. So they just decided to address the guard in free agency instead of the draft. Obviously the 7th rounder, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about this guy, Trey Turner, 5-time Pro Bowler, former Panther? Of course, you have to have a Panther background. So what did you think about this pickup?
I liked it a lot. I think it's great value just off of the fact that it's $3 million and it's a 1-year deal. So he's going to play his heart out because this is his chance to get paid even more money next year, even if it's not with us. So, and again, like you said, we're pretty much in win now mode. Not Super Bowl win now, but we're trying to build on the 7 wins that we got last year, trying to get 8, 9, or 10 wins. Maybe at least make like a thick 5, 6, or 7 seed in the NFC type of thing. And so it's just like at the very least he's depth if there's an injury, because we had a lot of injuries last year, especially on the offensive line, and there's a ceiling there because I feel like honestly if you follow the story, Trey Turner was at his best when he was in Carolina with Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, John Moscow, all of those guys, and I feel like a lot of what offensive line does is chemistry. It's the guys around you, you communicating, this guy's weakness, this guy's strength. And I feel like the best offensive lines are solid with good to really good guys all around rather than a couple of all pros and then a bunch of trash in between. I feel like the best offensive lines are just solid all the way through. And I just feel like when he left Carolina, he got traded to the Chargers, and he was clearly upset about it. He was like, I heard he was one of the people that was the most upset about Ron Rivera getting fired. And so he just went to that situation for the Chargers and just didn't have fun. And of course you got to dock him. You have to dock him for that, just not giving it your all. Then he goes to the Steelers. He actually plays well, but the Steelers O-line is just falling apart. They went from being one of the best ones just a few years ago to a lot of guys retiring and getting hurt and things like that. Yeah. Yep. And he was actually one of the bright spots last year. So I think when we get him back with a coaching staff that he's familiar with, and even though he's not going to be directly next to Andrew Norwell, just having a familiar face and just the whole coaching staff. And so, again, keep saying his name a lot, but most importantly, John Moscow. If anybody can get him back to that Pro Bowl self, it's him. And it's not like he was a Pro Bowler 1 year, skip 2 was another one. It was 5 straight years of Pro Bowl play. And he's only 28. It'd be different if he was outside of his prime. We're talking like 35 or something like that, 33. He's 28. I think if he can play well, it's for us. I'm not guaranteeing he will, but if there's any place that Trey Turner can get back to his Pro Bowl self, I think it's us. And very least, depth, $3 million.
Yeah, I was surprised a 5-time Pro Bowler is $3 million. I was definitely surprised. Now, obviously, I've looked into it similar to you, where it's like, okay, he's had a couple of rough stints the last 2. Now he's becoming more of a journeyman. But still, you get a 5-time Pro Bowler at $3 million. That's an A-plus signing.
That's technically better than Andrew Norwell signing. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. Honestly, it really is unbelievable. I know it's a guard, but still, I mean, that's just so cheap. And it's a position of need, and you're able to fill it. You have familiarity, like you said. So I liked it. We also signed Alex Erickson, potential punt returner, maybe receiver from Cincinnati. I'm personally not impressed with this pickup, but do you think that this is a guy that fans should show some interest in?
First of all, he's a former Panther, but it's not a Ron Rivera Panther. It's technically a Matt Rule Panther, I believe. So which is kind of funny. We technically, this is our first outside the team signing.
Yeah.
But I mean, my problem is what you had in DeAndre Carter. I don't think this guy's that explosive. And if you're not going to be one of the most explosive, most consistent field position changing returners, you have to be able to contribute as a receiver on offense. Like, if you to make this 53-man roster, you got to contribute somewhere either very well or you got to be able to do both fairly well. And I just feel like he's a decent to good punt returner, but not good enough for us to be thinking about, are we going to keep Cam Sims? Or are we going to keep, I don't think so. I just think this guy's pretty much just an off-season guy that is definitely, I don't see him making a 53-man roster.
I agree, but and to be fair, I said the same thing about DeAndre Carter, but I also agree with you of it's just not the same explosiveness that Carter brings. But it does leave the question of who's going to be a returner, because it's not going to be Jahan. He has some experience with that, but first round pick, you're not throwing back there. Maybe in like certain scenarios, you'll throw him back there in like maybe if a play that you really want and you want to get a ball in your playmaker hands, like Antonio Brown did every once in a while, or Deshaun Jackson did every once in a while. But he's not going to be your every time they punt and every time they kick off, he's your return guy. So it is going to be interesting who they decide to go with on this roster. And I don't have a direct answer. So I guess he has an inside lane if you look at it that way. So I'm almost convincing myself. Yeah, I'm almost convincing myself live action of this guy might be worth a spot on our roster. Not that I'm happy about it, but it just is what it is. So interesting. All right, so we hadn't talked in a while, and I probably should have started with this one, but I just thought about it now, and we're talking about Wentz a little bit. And I thought about it actually when we were talking about the Sam Howell, but I decided to save it to the end. How did you feel about the Carson Wentz trade? Because I have strong opinions on it. But I'm curious on how you feel first.
Okay, so now that he's here, I'm a root for him. Like, it's just go out there and be a Hall of Famer. Make giving up those picks worth it. But me personally, I'm still not a fan of it. We're struggling to pay Terry McLaurin because of it. Where the whole it stopped us, of course. I love Malik Willis. It pretty much just canceled even any chance of getting Malik Willis, which already made me sad. And again, Malik Willis is like biased reasons, not just talent, but same high school, everything. So I really wanted him. It also getting the cap space. The reason why cut Eric Flowers, we already asked Landon Collins to take a pay cut, and I was surprised he agreed. Then we trade for Carson Wentz. They come to him again. Can you take a little bit more off? He's like, nah. Now y'all just playing with me. Like, y'all not about to keep coming back and asking me. Y'all need to go ask somebody else. So I'm done. So now we're struggling to find a Buffalo nickel because of that. Matt Ioannidis is gone. Like you said, Tim Settle was probably going to leave anyway. And Brandon Sheriff, of course, was going to leave anyway. But it's just like, it's so many negatives, so many negative effects of trading for him that if he doesn't go out there and ball out, it's gonna really hurt us because it took away picks. It may be a second round pick next year, but at the same time, Carson Wentz at his best is the best quarterback in this division. But are we ever gonna see that from him? But then again, this is the best receiver core he's ever had. If we're, not including tight ends, Terry McLaurin is the best receiver he's ever thrown to. So I don't know. It's like back and forth. I'm rooting for him. But I just think it was too many negative side effects.
All right, let me try to convince you then, okay? Because I have strong opinions. Because I had said this before before it was even said we even thought about making the move. It was like 2 weeks before, and somebody in my chat came in and said, "What do you think about Carson Wentz?" And I started thinking about it, And as crazy as this may sound, especially with somebody a little bit more pessimistic than you, and also here we go, fans. I'm harsh on the draft, but I'm about to praise the team here. I think this may have been the best case scenario for the Washington Commanders. As crazy as that may sound. So, of course, we gave up a little bit more than I would have liked to, but let's set that aside for a second because we'll come back to it. I probably would have only given up one pick. Yeah. So, but all right, we gave up a little bit more, especially considering Matt Ryan, a former MVP, only went for a third. Of course, he's older, but but they also ate some of the contract and all this kind of stuff. So, all right. First off, you're getting a super talented player, right? 6'5", 240 pounds, super strong arm. He's had an MVP caliber season before. He's had another really good year in 2019. Of course, injuries and stuff like that, but you're getting a guy with definitely high ceiling that me and you like to go for.
At his best, he's the best quarterback in this division, period.
Exactly. And he's younger. Like, he's not the oldest, but he does have experience, right? He's only 29, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
So he could be our quarterback for another 5 to 7 years easily. And then a lot of quarterbacks played in near 40. So we could be looking at a 10-year quarterback potentially. But all right, a lot of people were mad that we took on the contract, right? And they would have rather have waited until he got cut because he was most likely going to get cut or whatever. And then sign him to a deal. The problem with that is that would have been a 1-year deal. I want that 3-year contract because that $28 million this year, $26 million next year, $27 million next year is under that 13% number that we've talked to before.
Yeah. Okay. I see it. I see the vision.
So now he's only $15 million of dead cap. Like you mentioned earlier as well. If he sucks, it sucks that we lost some picks, but if he hits, we now have a quarterback under contract for the next 2 seasons at a fairly reasonable price.
Somewhere around the same thing as Jimmy G, and nobody wants him.
Yeah, exactly. So, and now, like, you compare, like, all right, so you would have had to pay a bunch of money and send a haul for Russell Wilson. Yes, you get Russell Wilson, but now you're paying him a bunch of money and you don't have capital to build the team around him. Yeah, so that is going to hurt. We'll see what Denver ends up doing and how they end up doing. They've also brought in some guys that are on cheaper deals because of Russell Wilson. So we'll see how the Denver Broncos do, and they're in a crazy division. But Rogers was never on the table. Deshaun Watson, the Browns, I don't know if you look, they're on a one year and done. They only have 27 players signed next year, and they only have $8 million in cap space left.
I did not know that.
That's it. With 3 players, they're over $100 million in cap space. With 3 players, Watson, Amari Cooper, and Myles Garrett put them over $100 million in cap space. Okay? The Browns are in, like, La La Land. They are literally this year, and after that, we're figuring it out. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to be dangerous.
And remember, Deshaun Watson only chose them because of the money. It was the Saints or the Falcons bidding against each other. Then the Browns came in out of nowhere and said, we'll give you all this guaranteed money. He was like, hey, might as well. So we had no chance of getting them because we were never going to offer him that type of money.
Yep, and they made this year only $1 million, so if he does get suspended, none of his money really gets lost. Yeah. I think they did some weird situation with that. And then after that, it's 55, 55, 55, 55, I think, or something like that. So that's outrageous. And then on top of that, you're losing 3 first rounders or whatever they ended up giving up for him. So I don't like that. And I don't like to overpay quarterbacks like we've talked about. So those 2 to me are off the table in those scenarios. Everybody else, Mitch Trubisky, hot garbage. Marcus Mariota, absolutely not. Baker Mayfield to me is not it. I liked him coming out. I'm not afraid to admit it. I liked him in that draft that he came out, but I don't want anything to do with him now. He had a loaded roster last year, and all he could get was 500 all the way through. People are like, "Oh, he got hurt later in the season." No, he was 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, 5-5, 6-6. Like the whole way, he was 500. Like, it was just not good, and with a loaded team around him. So I didn't want Baker Mayfield. Now we're looking at a rookie. Rookies, they take at least a year. You're not winning a Super Bowl with a rookie coming out. So And also you're using your first round pick. So now you don't get, well, we in an argument that we threw it away anyway, but you're wasting your first round pick.
Something better.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, when you add all of this up, and yes, it can fail. It could blow up in our faces. But when you add all of this up, to me, this was best case scenario. And now you add Sam Howell in the 5th. You have a guy that could be your starter right now, and then you have a guy with a strong arm that could be the starter after, as Rio's been saying for a while. When's the last time we've had that? Crickets. Right? I loved the move, and a lot of people hated on it, saying it was a panic move. It was this, it was that. I think it was a brilliant move, and we'll see how it pans out, but I loved it, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not going to be like hindsight 2020. No, you can come back and tell me I'm wrong, just like the draft. But I love this pickup. But also, you can't tell me I'm wrong because I'm already addressing if he fails. Okay, we let him go, and it sucks we lost a couple of picks, but we get rid of all that cap space or cap hit. Like all of it disappears. It's gone.
Yeah,
and we can build next year, and it's fine. But if it hits, now we have a guy on a reasonable contract for the next 2 seasons. Because if you waited till he was cut and you had a 1-year deal and he hits, now you're way overpaying for wins.
40 plus a year type of thing. Yeah.
Right? So
that's a good point.
I think it's an upgrade over Heineke, clearly. Sure. I think you have a hole in the head and it's not your nostrils, your mouth, or your ears. You have another opposite hole another hole in your head if you think that Heineke and Carson are comparable. And then it's not a rookie. You're not using your first round pick. So I loved this signing. So we'll see how.
So I see what you're saying. It's like the perfect middle where if you wanted those elite guys, you're pretty much selling a team away and you're trying to win within the next year or two, or your team is in the franchise doldrums for the next 5 to 8 years trying to recoup value. Or on the other end, Mr. Trubisky, Mariota, guys we're just wasting our time. We're just going a whole nother year just stalling, basically. We're just throwing out a guy to sell tickets. So yeah, I definitely see it again. And
and you can continue after this. Because you said it's in the middle, but it's not only in the middle. It has potential to go way up here, but it also has potential to go way down here. Yeah, so but it has high upside. But go ahead.
Sorry. To your point, I don't think the way down is anywhere near the distance as far as the way up it could be.
I agree.
I don't. The way down does bother me, which is why it's not like an A+ to me. But I'm definitely closer to you than the people that hate it. Because I just wanted as many draft picks as possible. I'm just a draft guy though. I'm the high school scouting recruiting. So when we give away draft picks, I'm sad. When we gain draft picks, I'm happy unless there's a Jameson Williams account.
Right.
So
Carson Wentz.
But yeah, no, because I can see a scenario where Carson Wentz. I can see a scenario where Carson Wentz. You can debate plays better than Russell Wilson, but stats. I can see a situation where he's the better fantasy quarterback, the better stats quarterback than Russell Wilson, and then everybody's going to look at us like we're genius. I could definitely see that. Again, to me, I think it's just staying healthy. I think the Jaguars game, I wouldn't necessarily call it a fluke, but I just think the team itself played bad. Not even just Carson Wentz. I feel like the entire team just didn't show up prepared that game. And so I think the up and the down, I feel like the down is nowhere near, the fail potential is nowhere near as big as the win potential. And so that's why I think it was a good idea. Again, I'm biased because I just really wanted Malik Willis. If I didn't love Malik Willis, I'd probably be right with you on it being an A+. That's the part that just hurt my heart. That's literally 75% of it. The draft picks, everything else is like the other 25.
Right. And looking at it, 5 out of their 8 losses were one possession games. And the defense gave up 25 points or more in basically all of those games. So
you can also argue, the Colts have a better run blocking O-line, but Carson Wentz is worse under pressure. We have a better pass blocking O-line.
Yes.
So I just think overall, and then receiving group, T.Y. Hilton wasn't healthy. Michael Pittman's good, but Terry McLaurin's the best receiver he's ever thrown. So I can see so many ways of this working out very well for us, for sure.
Yep. Yep. So I personally, I loved it. I thought it was great. And the only thing I didn't like is now you had to all of a sudden cut Matt Ioannidis for some reason.
That's
And
the negative
that's,
effects. That's part of the 25% as well. Losing
yeah.
certain players.
But I don't, but I just feel like that was the panic move. That was the unnecessary part. Like, if you wanted to cut Eric Flowers, fine, you save a full $10 million there. Saving $6 million and now
And not
spending a
spending
second round. Well, yeah, and then but then now spending a second round pick, like $6 million, that's way too much for a rotational guy. But a second round pick, oh, that's great. Spend that second round pick. Like,
yeah, the value does not.
am I in like La
parallel.
La Land? Like, what are we doing here? I didn't get that.
And we haven't even spent the $6 million. That's another thing that's annoying. We cut them and haven't even used what we cut them for yet. Maybe we will, but I don't know.
Yeah, and then but you're about to get a bunch of money from the Landon Collins cut.
Yeah, once he's officially cut, yes.
Yeah, you get like what, $8 million from that as well. So to me, I just thought that this was not the move to cut him, and now it's amplified. But anyway, all right. Well, thank you for coming on here, Street Scores. Any last things that you want to say?
Man, just thanks for having me. I know I always say like just let me know again, but like for real, I always have so much fun. I think I don't know, I guess people think I'm just like probably not necessarily way busier than I am, but like I don't know, I actually really love like doing these live streams. So for real, just let me know, man, because first of all, you're one of the people that I always learn something from. You always bring, like I said, good point. When I'm saying good point, that's because it's something I didn't think about. Like I really appreciate that in itself. So, man, thank you for having me, of course, every time.
Absolutely. And yeah, everybody knows where to find you. I'm sure Street Scores on YouTube and I guess Twitter as well, or Street Scores ATL on Twitter. Or how,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So he's from Atlanta, big Skins fan. Yeah. Whatever. And you're from New York, though, right? Like originally?
Nah, I've lived in New York for 5 years and I can't wait to move back, but nah.
Oh, okay. So you're originally from Atlanta area, and then you moved to New York. I remember hearing one of your live streams. You said that. I don't remember.
It's really so. Born in Maryland, moved to Atlanta 6th grade, and been here since. But was second home, kind of Las Vegas, and then lived in New York for college and a little bit beyond that.
Is your family military?
Nah, it's just it's so random. It's super
random. It is random.
Really random.
It is.
Yeah.
I've been to Atlanta once. The traffic there sucks.
Awful. It gets worse every year because people keep moving here thinking it's just, I don't know. I guess thinking it's just an adult Disneyland. I don't know.
Do they have the College Football Hall of Fame, right? In Atlanta?
I think that we have something to that extent. I thought that was in Ohio or something. Oh, no, college. No. Ohio's the regular Hall of Fame. I think we do have the College Football Hall of Fame. I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure
you know my city better than I do.
Yeah, because I did sightsee there, and then you have a nice aquarium. Not that it's sports related.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, even us as Atlanta folks, we go to the Tennessee Aquarium. We feel like they have the best one, but I do feel like we probably have the second best, I would say.
Wow. So wait, what Tennessee Aquarium?
Honestly, I don't even know what city it's in. I've been once, but we just call it the Tennessee Aquarium. I don't even know if that's the exact name. But
I'm sure it's not. But yeah, it is to you guys. It is okay.
It's no bias. We love it. I love going to the aquarium in Atlanta. But to be completely objective, the aquarium in Tennessee is beautiful. I think it's better.
Wow, interesting. I thought you guys had the whale sharks inside, like a 10 million gallon tank or something. So anyway, it was interesting to go see. But okay, so now me and my wife will have to go to the one in Tennessee. She loves the aquariums. So
our zoo, I think we're one of the only people that has a panda in North America. So of course that.
We didn't do that. That's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think we're like we're the only place in North America, the only place outside of China, period, that has a panda in a zoo. So that's interesting. I think it's something like that. But of course, it's not like DC where everything is free, like in museums and national parks, all of that stuff. You have to pay to do that pretty much everywhere outside of DC. Mm-hmm. But it is nice. But yeah, the Tennessee Aquarium is beautiful. We're actually planning on trying to go up there, me and a group of friends, soon, because I haven't been in years.
Fair enough. Watch Rico. I'm about to break 1K. I got to get you on when I can go live.
Yeah, for sure, my boy. Yes, sir.
There you go. Yeah, hit him up on Twitter. That's how I hit him up. And yeah, Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm glad that you guys came over here after Louis T went over on Rio. But we had some fun here, good conversation, and yeah, awesome. And I will see you guys tomorrow. We got Ref the District coming on. Have you watched any of their stuff?
No.
Yeah, so they're an up and coming YouTube thing. There's 3 of them: Stoner, Trev, and Nathan. They're pretty good. They had media passes and stuff live at the stadium on day 1 of the draft. So
that's dope.
they got to talk to a bunch of people. So yeah, I'll talk to them tomorrow. We got Rio on Monday, Louis on Tuesday next week. So we got some stuff coming. But
yes,
hey,
sir.
we had already started with the best here with Street Scores. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming on. But until next time.